Hi, welcome back to my channel, Auntie Rachel. Today's video is on how to care more about what you think instead of others. I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that middle school is a time when you're doing a lot of caring what other people think. And there's a lot of reasons for that. In middle school, you tend to be gaining more responsibility, whether it's at home, at school, both. Emotional things and social things become more complex and dynamic. And sometimes it can be hard to kind of navigate this new self that is forming, this new adult independent self that is slowly forming. So there's a lot of like exploration and mistakes and awkwardness, and that is all extremely normal. Anyone my age or older would tell you, a lot of them would say, that they hated middle school and it was the worst time. I've only met a few people that actually liked middle school. And for me, I remember it being terrible. Just not every moment. Like, I developed new friendships, I got a lot more social, I had my first boyfriend. There are a lot of positives that come, but things are more awkward. You're embarrassed more easily. You're not sure of who you are and who you want to be, and you're kind of just going out into the world with a little more independence, and it feels strange at first. But it does get easier. Middle school it's tough, and maybe it isn't tough for everyone, but it's tough for a lot of people, and it comes with a lot of challenges, all completely normal. Most adults will tell you the same thing, and it does get easier. High school, I thought, was really fun. I know not everybody does, but something about it that's really positive, even if you don't end up absolutely loving it, is you do kind of find yourself a little bit more and where you fit. And, some things just kind of calm down and settle in a little bit. So if you're feeling like this is just a nightmare and I can't wait to get out, I really do think it gets better. Okay, now getting into the main point of the video, which is how to care more about what you think than what others think. This can be a big challenge in middle school that I notice a lot of people deal with, and I remember dealing with as well. So I'm going to ask a series of questions, and I'm going to go kind of slow and kind of stop in between them, but they're just questions that are kind of food for thought for you. The first question is kind of a scenario, like a hypothetical. If you have an awkward or tense situation with someone, whose actions are you thinking more about? Or if you're someone that kind of deals with some anxiety, whose actions are you obsessing more about? Is it theirs or yours? Now, I don't mean like you're thinking about what happened and the events and how they made you feel. Like, sure, if you're kind of obsessing a little about it or feeling anxious about it, whose actions and whose behaviors that like could have been changed are you thinking about more? Probably yours. And I want you to think about that for a second, because if you have a situation and you come back from it thinking more about yours, that is actually a useful tool that you could turn into a more positive thing. Problem is, if you maybe are someone that starts beating yourself up about it, or feeling like you were just too this or too that about it, pull back on that a little bit. Come at it from a way of thinking like, hey, I didn't really like how I did that. I could have done this, without being so judgmental about yourself. You could think more about like, what type of person do I want to be, and how do I come off that way? Or if it just went super awkward, there's no point in thinking about that. Then just let it go. Be like, yeah, that was kind of awkward, but you know what? It's understandable. And let's move on. And that is not easy to do. I make it sound really easy. It's a practice to be kinder to yourself and not obsess about the things that, you're doing. It definitely takes practice. I've been there. Once you believe that you can talk to yourself more like a friend and be less judgmental about things, it really does help. I'll give another scenario. So say you like someone and you walk away from the interaction, maybe doing the same thing, obsessing about what you did. Did you handle this well? Did you do this well? Maybe you're feeling awkward or whatever. Whose insecurities are you thinking more about at that time? Yours or theirs? Think about this. If you said yours, your own, they're probably doing the same thing, which means their time is not as much consumed with obsessing about your stuff as much as their own stuff. And just think about that with everybody. Everybody has their own little world, their own little problems that they're going to be thinking about a great deal more than you. Here's another thought to consider. Who do you have to live with 24/7? Of course, we know the answer is you. So, since you're living with yourself 24/7 and not anybody else, you need to be able to learn to step back and decide, who do I want to be? What type of person do I want to look at in the mirror in the morning? And, try to do what you can to be that person. And if you're being that person and you're proud of that person, then it's easier to kind of step back and just be a little bit easier on yourself, because everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has awkward moments. And if you're being the type of person you want to be, that's what really matters. Middle school is a time when we're developing who we want to be, and we're not going to figure it all out. Like ever. I'm sorry, I hope that's not discouraging. You're always kind of figuring out who you are and who you want to be and kind of adjusting. But middle school is probably the most awkward time because you're making bigger decisions, they're newer decisions. But you could start thinking now about, like, who do I want to be? Leave others out of it. Okay, what makes you proud? What kind of person do you look at and go, I want to be like that, or I want to be more like that, or I want this trait, or I want to have these traits, whatever. Starting to notice those things are huge, because other people speak to us through who they are. Like if you, feel weird around someone, or you admire someone, there's reasons for that. Try to figure out what they are. And of course, be your unique version of that. But those kind of things are communicating to us. Why do you admire them? Why do you not feel good around them? Also, consider this. People respect confidence. Now, it's not easy to be confident all the time. I would argue in middle school, sometimes it can be harder. But what is that saying that I don't really love? Fake it till you make it. I really don't love that, but it has a little bit of truth to it. And people respect confidence. If you're sure of what you're doing and who you are and who you want to be, and you're good with that, other people will follow suit. Some ways to work on your confidence if you're not feeling very confident is to pay attention to the people that lift you up and that say positive things about you, because people don't have to do that. It kind of puts them in a vulnerable place sometimes. So consider what they're saying, that it could be a truth about you. Speak to yourself more kindly if you're really hard on yourself. Notice when you're saying negative things to yourself about yourself, and start challenging them in your head. You can be like, if you have some like not very nice thought about yourself pass through your mind, there's a lot of ways to deal with that. You could counter it. You could acknowledge it, that it's a thought that came into your head and it doesn't mean it's truth. I also heard of someone who did the technique of, like, when they would get a negative thought in their head, they would imagine a broom sweeping it away, like sweeping the dust away. So there, you let it pass through. It doesn't mean it's truth. You can also counter it with more positive thoughts about yourself. This is the poet/teacher coming out of me here for a second. If you're someone that likes to write, a good tip for this too would be to write I am poems. So an I am poem is like, you write, I am this, I am that. It's kind of a list. I mean, you could make it more creative, like creatively designed as a poem. But if you want to just do the basics, like I am this, I am this, I am this. And then just list your good traits that you have, or, your gray area traits, your edgy traits, whatever they are, whatever you think is positive. And then maybe throw some negative ones in there too. There's power in that too, in knowing what your not so great traits are and acknowledging them. I've done that a few times in my life when I felt like I was really changing and growing, and I was kind of learning about this new version of me I was becoming, and I found it helpful. So, there's a little tip for you if you like writing or don't mind writing or find it helpful, even if it's not your favorite thing. Okay, this one is one of my favorites because I've told a lot of students this before. Consider that people are behaving the way they are because of who they are, not who you are. What I mean is, people have so much going on privately that you have no idea about. I mean, there are things that I would know about students that a lot of other students didn't know. I mean, you wouldn't believe the things some people are dealing with, like people even that you don't expect, you just don't know. So, not only am I going to throw in a be kind comment there, but also you just have to know other people's behavior isn't entirely about you. They have so much going on privately, like I said, or also, you know, everyone's raised differently. And based on how we were raised from our caregivers, you know, we are exhibiting those behaviors in the real world. We learned behavior from them, and then we exhibit that learned behavior to others. And it doesn't mean that behavior can't change or morph into something different, but a lot of people, particularly when they're young, are exhibiting learned behaviors. So just consider that. It's really, there's no possible way all of someone's behaviors can be about you. So try not to take too much offense in how people behave. Um, I mean, it can hurt your feelings. It can be rude. It can be nasty that something that someone did to you, true, but it's not all about you. And the moment you distance yourself from that a little bit, the more you can accept their behavior as information and react accordingly. Um, and I had a lot of students tell me stuff like, well, if I don't snap back or, whatever, then I'm just the weaker one and I'm just letting them, take over or whatever. They had some other way of saying that. And I was like, no, not really. I mean, you can set boundaries and you can stand up for yourself, but you don't have to be nasty back. Like, of course, there are situations that not everything applies to, but generally speaking, with some middle school problems, um, just you can stand up for yourself and be assertive without being nasty back. It is possible. That is it for that video. I hope you found a little pearl of knowledge that you can hold on to during this video. And I hope to see you next time. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and goodbye from your Auntie Rachel.